Recording has begun.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everybody. It is 10:02, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Just a reminder, we do not do roll call or introductions on this call. Daryl did place the link to the sign-in sheet for attendance, so if you guys could go in and fill that out sometime in the near future, that would be great. We'll go ahead and get started with our project updates. Tracy, do you want to give us a status on Schriever and Cheyenne Mountain?
Yeah, I can. The Schriever, the site survey was complete. If you guys happen to have that tracker handy, there is still, and I can pull it up on my end too, there is still an open item with that one. There we go. Oops, sorry, hit the mute button. They are still working on that twist lock tower. It needed to be installed. The site asked us for dimensions of the shelving and the equipment, which we did provide to them. So the survey is complete, but there's still a couple items that we need to work on with them. And then I see that, I know Vicky's on, but she is just getting back to the account with us, and I don't see Nancy, but I have not heard back. Whoops, let me pull this up again on the Cheyenne. Vicky, do you have any idea, or do I need to work with Nancy offline?
Yeah, I think Nancy would be the best one for that. Yeah. I am not sure.
Yeah, and I just siphoned through my emails, and I haven't heard for sure on Cheyenne, so I can follow up on that later today.
Okay, that would be great.
Yep.
Did you want to go ahead and use this time to go through the updates that you made to the tracker, Tracy?
Sure. If you can click on the first tab of what you have up right now. We tried to clean this up a little bit. If you guys recall, I wasn't available last month for the meeting, but I got a lot of feedback from Wes, and we went through a few items. I want to go down first to like line item 8, because the ones that are highlighted down here as closed, it's my understanding from the last meeting and some follow-ups that my group did, these have recently closed, and I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement with that one. The first one there, I mentioned the Buckley Air Force Base. That one, the ESInet, is up and running. We met with Buckley and Aurora Police Department. Right now, it's just a matter of the billing, and that's 100% on Lumen's side to get that sorted out now that it's been taken care of. I don't know why it's down there twice, but I'll remove one of them. So I went ahead and moved that to close because there really isn't an issue for this team. The feedback I got on Summit County was that the county and Motorola will continue discussions as needed. If you guys do reach out, you know, Gary, if something comes up that you need us for, but I think that that's kind of between Motorola and the county. Wes did hear from Joel Estes at Adams County, and they're not aware of any more issues taking place. So I went ahead and moved that one, unless there's someone on this call that has something different to share with us. And then the same for Summit County. We have been told that at this time, there aren't any issues that Lumen would be able to assist with.
Great, thank you for cleaning that up for us, Tracy. Does anybody have any questions about those items that are on there now for Tracy?
Yeah, we can talk on the top ones real quick. If you know, we kind of narrowed it down. You know, there's 5 open items that we're tracking, so it looks a lot better, and it'll be easier for us to follow, I think. Anything on the transfers from Denver to Northern Colorado?
Hi, this is Kimberly. So it's not just Denver. We're having those random calls that are arriving delivered, not transferred. They're delivered to the wrong piece out. They're being delivered up here in Larimer County when the destination should be Broomfield, Westminster, Denver. I think we got one from Aurora. So again, it's not a transfer issue. It is a original delivery. Everything on the Aniali indicates that it was correct, meaning it has the correct ESN to be delivered to Denver 911. And so there's nothing that needs to be corrected on that Annie Alley. We've opened tickets within Trotto. We've gone through the ESInet. We've opened tickets through Lumen. Been great sending this stuff over to Vicky for some assistance because she's helped before.
Mhm.
But issues are still open. So they're not happening every day, all day long. They will happen occasionally, but occasionally still should have some attention of the team because I do believe there's something configured in the ESInet that's not correct.
So Kimberly,
Okay.
can I ask a question? Do you know if these are predominantly landline originating calls or wireless VoIP originating calls?
We have a mixture of both, Cindy, and some of them are from MLTS as well. So we have a couple of businesses where we had the same thing. So this is a repeat issue. I know you and I worked on a few from an MLTS perspective, but even though that may be something not configured right with that line on an MLTS, Larimer County isn't a default route for anything in Colorado.
Right,
So
that, I was
that's
just
why
trying to figure out if it was wireless or VoIP, it could be
yeah, it's a
routed
mixture.
correctly with at the cell tower. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I do, and
yeah.
we're not, but see, when it comes through on our side, it has the proper ESN to be delivered to the proper PSAP, but it's being delivered to us. So
What
there's
about
no
the
routing.
ESRK? Is
Mhm.
it getting a Larimer County ESRK or is
It
it?
is. No, it's hitting the Denver ESRK, but being delivered to Larimer County. So there's
So it's getting the
nothing,
Denver ESRK. So that's a little bit different than what we looked at before. Because before
right.
it was getting a Larimer County route, and so it was misrouting at that initial kind of route determining stage.
Mhm.
So it sounds
So
like there may be some kind of overflow route or something built somewhere.
Ex-
Not us, we don't have that built, but that just helps us kind of figure out. And Tracy and I and Wes talked about this, and we're trying to kind of gather all the examples, if we can find any kind of pattern,
mhm.
help point us in a direction of where to look.
Well, we appreciate the attention and the help of the team because we've been talking about this for quite a
Mhm.
while, and it seems we're not getting anywhere. And we keep trying to do everything that we're being asked to do with putting things up on the net, opening up tickets. There's nothing wrong in our configurations. There's nothing wrong in the PSAP configurations or tower configurations or something as it relates to the call delivery in the network.
Right.
So we really appreciate everybody from Lumen and Intrado getting engaged. And if you need more details, examples, you just tell me who to send them to. Because right now I'm dumping them in Vicky's lap. Sorry, Vicky, but she's been successful in helping us solve things previously, along with you, Cindy. So it's great to hear you on the call.
Yeah, like I said, Tracy and Wes reached out, I think last week too, and raised this up. So you definitely have everyone's attention and they're looking at it. We're just struggling to find the common thread that will point us in the right direction as to what is happening.
Right. And
Because it's not a consistent thing that we can use.
one
But we're
thing,
digging through, we're trying to gather all the data to see if we can find any kind of common thread.
right. Well, one thing that Wes, and I know Sue is on this call with us today as well. I asked her to join. You know, there's sometimes there are VoIP wireless providers, and they have an alternate route that, you know, comes into play with this as well. So it's
But that they're alternate routing through their network and not necessarily through the ESInet.
right. And that's why we're trying to look at all the different examples and see where it is, because what we're seeing isn't coming through on our side, and what you guys are getting isn't working on your side. And yeah, we're just that we appreciate all the examples, and Vicky's just now getting back, so hopefully she can help us work through some of this as well. But you know, our suggestion while we all work through it, and I'm sorry it's taking so long, is yes, please do continue to follow the regular process and let us know when those do happen. Kimberly, you guys are welcome, and it actually might help if when you're opening those issues, go ahead and copy, you know, myself and Wes, and that way we can kind of track it on our side too and know specific ticket numbers to look for prior to these calls. And if we find things out, you know, just because we don't want to wait till next month. If we're able to get some answers to you, I'm happy to send them over. But the sooner that the Lumen team can be aware, we can, work with Entrado and try to help figure this out.
Yeah, so the normal process, Kimberly, when you open a ticket with Entrado, is they'll work with our Lumen knock on that. Tracy doesn't necessarily get notified about that, but because this has been going on, one of the things we talked about is kind of inserting ourselves into that so that we can see the whole scope, and whether you guys are copying us or we're going to Entrado and asking for reports for at least the time being, not just having the knock engaged on these troubleshooting, but also making sure that we know and have a list of all the open kind of misroute and NRF things that are going on that will help us, piece the puzzle together.
Sure. So our process right now is to call the Lumen knock and we let them know the misroute and get a ticket. Then we put everything in the net, and then so we have it opened in the Entrado net. We don't actually call the Entrado help desk because this is an ESInet issue.
Right.
So we go through and we put it on the net, but there's nothing that needs to be changed in the Annie because it's correct. It's just being delivered wrong. So it's basically forcing it in there and then putting the details of everything's fine on the Annie screen. It's just reaching the wrong PSAP. It's misrouting to us. So we flag that and put that in there. And then I've been sending stuff over to Vicky, but I'll include all of you. That's fine, and let you know this happened here. And then we also are attaching our Viper call detail report. So then you have timestamps, phone numbers.
Yeah,
all
so
the
you're giving us
information.
everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I said, I just want to make sure we have more visibility on it, right? And if there's anything Tracy or I can do to help put the puzzle together, we're not having to go to you and have you repeat everything, that we've got all that data that you've been providing already, and we can see it as you're reporting it. So we'll work with our internal teams and Entrado too to make sure that they're funneling that to us.
That would be great, because we are, of course, just a bit frustrated because this has been going on for months and it's dangerous, so we appreciate the attention, and I don't mind pulling reports on our end, whatever you guys need to help you get the information so you can troubleshoot, just let us know.
Okay, thank you. Kind of a key update, because I know you guys had asked about it, the alley project updates. I did reach out this morning, and as of about 9 o'clock, there were 4 PSAPs left. They're planning on wrapping up 2 of them today. There's a bit of an issue with the Pueblo PD in Trinidad. I don't know if the person that we need is not there, or if they just are understaffed, or what the issue is, but we keep reaching out and they aren't available for any of the timeframes that we are available for. So we do have a meeting next week to try to get those 2 hammered out. We would love to wrap this up before the end of July, which is what I had mentioned last month. And we're getting a lot closer than we were back in June. So there was a lot of attention put on this by the team. And hopefully by the end of today, we're down to just 2. Shriver, I think we already touched on. So that was another big one that I was trying to track down for you guys before today. And that's really all I have.
Okay, great. Is there anybody that has any questions for the items that are on there for Tracy that we haven't discussed already? All right, are there any PSAPs or authorities on that think you have an open ticket that we should be tracking that's ESInet related, that's not on the tracker? Okay, perfect. Tracy, is there anything else we need to cover in that section?
I don't believe so.
Okay, great. All right, we will go ahead and move on to old business. A proposed tariff, the amendment for the ECATs. Tim, are you on? I don't see him. Wes, are you on the line?
I don't see him either.
Daryl, you didn't get anything from either of them?
Nope.
Okay. Then I guess we will just move on. Tracy, do you have an update on the area code overlay? I know we had a couple more that were still on 8-digit.
Yes, actually, we got that corrected. I worked with Converge One and the PSAP and Entrado last week, and we were able to correct. I think it was Thornton and Adams County. Converge One went out and made some test calls, and Entrado worked with us and made some changes, and they're good to go. Shriver Air Force Base, I believe, is fine. The big one, I still haven't gotten confirmation from the PSAP, my technician, or the county on her F&O county. I haven't been told if they're bidding 8 or 10, so I'm struggling with that one. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Carrie's on, Fremont and Durango Converge One confirmed that they're good.
Okay. Is there anybody on from Huerfano County?
I had a quick question, and I think Cindy Berry might know. With DIA just being a transfer, are we concerned on that one or no? Because that was another one I had a question on, is DIA.
The same issue is going to exist.
Okay.
And they're in the heart of the area primed to get the new area code.
Yeah, so we'll have to leave DIA on there.
But the issue is DIA's equipment, I don't think is capable.
Right.
They're on the old Zetron equipment.
Okay, so Tracy, is there anything that we need to do with DIA? I mean, have they been communicated with?
We have sent, the same email communication to them that have gone to everyone else. I haven't heard back. And from internal talks that we've had there, it sounds like they do need to upgrade their equipment. And I don't know the ins and outs of how that works with funding and PSAPs and whatnot, but if the equipment they have,
the DIA is going to be a large majority of their telecom staff, I think, was let go during the pandemic when no one was flying and the airport was pretty quiet. I don't know that that staff has come back. But there's a lack of resources, I think, at the airport to do much with the issue. And we know their existing equipment, I don't even think can be upgraded. It would have to be replaced to be able to handle 10 digits.
Okay, Cindy, do you know if anybody is having conversations with anybody who's left there, or we need to reach out to them?
We've been trying. I don't know that we've been successful. So if you guys can reach out, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
So that we could, whoever makes contact with the right person, we can set up a call and just to talk through it. They do get all of their calls as transfers from the city of Denver.
Okay, is
And
there?
I don't know if there's any mitigation we could put in place there, because Denver would have the correct alley data. But if DIA were to redid, once that new area code comes into place, they could get the wrong data.
Okay. By chance, is there anybody on from DIA or anybody that has a contact there that they'd be willing to share with me and I can reach out to them?
Hey, Tina, this is Andrew in Denver. I can get you a good point of contact.
Okay, I would appreciate that. If you'll just send that over, I'll reach out to him.
Now, the good news is, since DIA really, because of where they are and they're getting transfers, the majority of their calls are going to be wireless or some kind of mobile VoIP solution. So until someone issues a new ESRK range or ESQK range, they shouldn't be impacted. So that mitigates them and gives us a little bit of time to work with them. Landlines is a lot more tricky because, but I don't see a lot of landline calls getting transferred to DIA.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. I appreciate that. I'll reach out to them and then get them in contact with you guys.
that would be wonderful. And that way we can help them move forward.
Okay.
And I did look back through my emails, and Carrie with Converge One did say Fremont and Durango are bidding the 10.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. Does anybody have any questions for Tracy about the area code overlay or the 8-digit? Okay. Tracy, I know you already gave us an update on the alley stuff, but is there anything else you'd like to add on
I
that?
don't think so. Let me see how it goes next week and if we're able to get something scheduled with those 2 outstanding PSAPs. If not, maybe we'll reach out and see if you guys can help us a little bit so we can get this one cleared up. From what I've been told, I'm not usually a part of those meetings, but it's a staffing issue and we just haven't been able to get a time for everyone that needs to be on a call.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll go ahead and move on to new business. Daryl, do you want to discuss the letter?
Sure. So Tracy, Kathy, and I drafted a letter to CenturyLink, and just sharing this with you now. It's already been sent to Tim Kunkelman with Lumen, requesting clarification on how default calls are routed, because there seemed to be a lot of confusion on our last call, on our ESInet users group meeting call last month, about whether calls are default routed to the city of Aurora, which is what my understanding was originally, versus whether they are routed to a PSAP based on the trunk that the call is being received on from the originating service provider. So we sent a letter to Tim on June 16th requesting clarification on this matter. Unfortunately, since neither Tim nor Wes are on the call, I don't think we can even confirm with them whether they've had a chance to review this letter or talk internally at all to try to get some clarification for us, but I'll continue to follow up on this.
Okay, and I can kind of ping Wes too. I talked to him a little bit this morning, but I didn't know that this was out there, so I'll try to follow up too.
Tracy, would you like me to send you a copy?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can help in that response because I project managed the change because we originally had Aurora as statewide default when we initially completed the project, and then we did last year separate out each of the tandems so that Aurora is still the statewide default.
Cindy, I think it's Denver.
Denver is the default for the Broomfield Denver tandem. I think Aurora still set it at default if we don't even have that much. So it should never really go through Aurora. We should always at least know what trunk.
So it might depend on what type of default it is.
Yes, it would. But if we're default routing the call, because we don't know what route to use, there's no route provision, or we don't get the information. The first default route on that scenario is going to go based on the trunk group coming into the ESInet, and we've separated out the 3 selected router pairs in the state. So Grand Junction is the default route for the Grand Junction Montrose pair. I believe it's Colorado Springs for the Pueblo Colorado Springs pair, and then Denver for the Denver Broomfield pair.
And that makes sense. What we requested in the letter was a written explanation, so that we have some sort of record and we can maybe
we'll get that put together for you.
Right.
And there are other defaults we should probably make sure clearly.
That would be good to know about.
Hey, Kimberly, did you have something? I saw your hand.
Yeah, so Cindy, since these meetings are recorded, I think if you had a few minutes to kind of scan and listen to the conversation from last month as you prepare a response, I think it'd be really helpful because we were told a lot of different things last month and it was very confusing. And the change in our project as it relates to those local, quote unquote, local defaults are exactly how you just described, where it's local to the selective router, not local to the area, which was a big change in the ESInet, a lot of stress and heartache for some of us when all of a sudden our default routes are going to an agency outside of our local area. And then that fallout PSAP is still Aurora, but it's a true fallout. Nowhere else to go, can't be delivered at the selective router default PSAP. What was described last month was kind of trying to justify why I'm getting calls delivered to my PSAP that aren't destined for my PSAP because they're default routing. And again, we're not in the mix of a default route. We would have loved that, but we're not. So I haven't seen this letter before, but if we can, I know it's already been sent, but one piece as a reply back would be great to have some diagrams, high level maybe so it's public, but maybe through an NDA more detail. But we've asked on a couple of different venues with Lumen, we need to understand the ESInet design so we can help troubleshoot and isolate and mitigate issues. And so as you're identifying these default routes and replying, just for me, I guess for Daryl and Tina to consider, I would love to be able to have not just a description, but a design and an as-built.
Yeah. We'll pull that together. We've got that, so we'll pull it together. And like I mentioned, there's other, like you said, there's the kind of statewide default. These are the more regional, local. We got it to the selective router, but didn't know where to route it from there. Default. There's your alternate and abandonment routes, which are all documented. So we'll go through and pull all that information together, and there are a couple of diagrams that I know I internally went through when we were making that change last year. So we'll get those approved for release, make sure they're up to date, put something together for you guys.
This is Daryl. For everyone else on the call, there is a copy of the letter in the meeting folder for today's meeting. It was not intended that this letter be the end of the conversation. So, based on the response that we get, if the ESInet user group members want additional or further information, that certainly can be part of the conversation.
All right. Any other questions about that? Great. Cindy, thanks for your help with that. Kimberly, thanks for the information. Next item on the agenda for new business is going to be 911 to 988 transfers. Kathy, are you on the phone?
I am. Good morning, everybody. I have noticed, at least in the Arapahoe County authority agencies, that we are not able to transfer 911 calls to 988. We've had Converge One out, take a look. They're informing us that this is Intrado and Lumen issue. So I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. Daryl did make a good point in our back and forth email today that it would be better for 911 centers to transfer those calls to the 10-digit Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners. But there could always be the possibility that a call needs to go to 988 from 911, and so we need to be able to make those transfers.
Yeah, and just to follow up on what Kathy said, so the way the 988 call number works, and it's working now, right, by the way, on at least some of the wireless carriers, it officially becomes active on the 16th, so in just 3 days. But the way that number works is it really just translates to the national suicide mental health crisis line, which is an 800 number. And then that crisis line will then transfer it to a local crisis call center based on the area code of the call. So it's not even based on cell tower like we have for 911. It's based on the area code of the call, which means if somebody has a number that they've ported from another state or they're visiting here from another state, the call is going to go to a crisis center that won't even be in Colorado. So there's a delay from the double transfer, and then there's a potential that the call could go to a call center that's not in Colorado. So I think my recommendation would be to transfer those calls to the 10-digit crisis line number for Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners, which I imagine a lot of you already have that number programmed into your phone systems. I don't recommend transferring it to 988 at this time until they get that geolocation issue fixed, which could be years at this point, because the FCC is still looking at possible options for how they could fix that going forward. But if anybody has any questions about that, I'm happy to try to answer it. Maybe if there's a desire, we can even have 988 program manager for the state on a future call to help explain some of these things.
Kathy, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that is basically what's going on. I just would like to know what the next steps are to try and get that rectified.
Does the group think it would be beneficial to have the representative from 988 to be involved in the discussions to see, what their information or preferences are?
I think it would be good just to hear their perspective.
Okay. Daryl, can you reach out to her? I know that you've got that relationship.
Will do. And I guess, on Kathy's original question, if it's possible to set up transfers from 911 to 988, that would be more of a technical question for the people, for the Lumen and Intrado people on the call, if they have any insight on that.
This is Rich Johnston. Setting up a PSTN transfer to a number shouldn't be difficult. I think the discussions that we've had in the prior months is, when does 988 truly become active? Do you want to use a different 10-digit number until that point? So, pardon me, the technical provisioning of sending a call outbound to a PSTN number, we do it today, right, with language lines and stuff like that. So it's there. We just have to coordinate it. There'll be provisioning on the PSAP side as well as the ESInet core service side to get that PSTN transfer set up. But it's technically available, I would say.
Okay, thanks, Rich, for the information. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Just one more thing. This is more on the operational side than the technical side. The 988 program manager, Kelly Bowman, and myself are working with stakeholders. We're trying to set up a wider stakeholder group, but still keep it at a manageable size, to look at the possibility of putting out some either template policies or model policies or a model procedural flowchart, something along those lines that PSAPs can use to help determine when it's appropriate to transfer a call to 988 or to the Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners hotline. I know a lot of you probably already have those policies in place, but for those of you who don't, I'd like to have something that you could use as kind of a starting point to develop your own internal procedures. So we're working on that. It's it might take a couple months still.
That's great, Daryl. Thank you. All right, next item. Daryl, I wasn't sure. Do you want to talk about the strategic plan today?
Yes, I do. So I sent this out to, I think I did. Did I send this out to the full users group? Okay, good. So I'm not just remembering things that I did in a dream. So I sent the full version of the Next Generation 911 strategic plan out to the users group today, a couple of weeks ago, with the hope that people could take a look at it between then and now. I don't anticipate that people will be ready to vote on it today, but I would like a vote on it by the August meeting. My hope is that it will be approved by this ESInet users group in time for it to be attached to the State of 911 report that the Commission has to provide to the legislature on an annual basis. That way the legislature will see that there is a stakeholder group that is developing a plan for the future of next generation 911 deployment in the state, including potential future features and services to be added to the ESInet as we have it today. It is not meant to be a final document. It's meant to be a document that changes and evolves over time as the desires and the technological desires of this group and the technological capabilities of the system also change. So like I said, I'm not asking for a vote today, but if people would like to provide some feedback, they can. I believe I provided it in with suggestion mode turned on. So if people want to add suggestions directly to the document, they can do so. Let me double check that real quick, make sure I did that correctly. And that is, come on, open up. No, it's in view mode only right now. So I'm going to change it to commenter mode now that you guys have had a chance to look at it. So if people have comments on the document, and I'll send a link to the document out to the group again after the call today. If you have comments or want to suggest any changes to the document between now and our August ESInet users group meeting, you'll have an opportunity to do so. And I'm hoping that we can vote on it at the next meeting.
Hey, Matt, go ahead.
Thank you. The document's very heavily focused on next generation 911 stepping stones, but reflecting on some regulatory meetings yesterday and past discussions with the Western Slope PSAPS group, I wonder if we should more specifically ask or put in there a desire and ask to have split contingent routing instead of cascading routing when we go into overflow or PSAP abandonment. That's not really an NG911 thing, but I think it's pretty important to a lot of PSAPs.
And you know, I think depending on how you define it, it could be considered an NG911 thing. That's one of the things that's supposed to be enabled by policy-based routing, which we don't currently have, but it is part of the NENA I3 standard. So I will see about adding a section about that to the document.
Yeah, it's definitely part of NG911. I guess I'm saying this in light of maybe we should figure out and or at least put it as part of our ask and plan for the future prior to getting to full I3.
Very good. And by the way, I want to give special thanks to Matt. Matt is one of the smaller group of stakeholders that I shared this with first for proofreading purposes. And Matt did, I don't know how many hours you spent proofreading my bad writing. So thank you very much for that.
Probably 40 or 50 on that project.
And my writing only keeps getting worse. So I don't know what's going on.
No. It's not getting worse.
All right. Does anybody have any other feedback for Daryl or information or questions? All right. Next item, we'll go ahead and ask. This is any concerns from PSAPs or authorities to Lumen. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Okay, how about Lumen to PSAPs or authorities? Do you guys have anything additional?
I do not.
Okay.
Hey, Tina, this is Wes. I'm sorry I had joined late. I'm not sure what we might have covered earlier in the call. Tracy, are you on?
Yeah, she's on.
Oh, we did discuss earlier about reporting misroute calls. Was that covered?
Yeah, I put you guys on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Never mind.
The only thing that we didn't cover, Wes, would be an update on the ECATS tariff amendment or spatial call routing and text.
Yeah, Tim Kunkelman is handling that, and I can tell you where he's at on that. He is still in the mode of, he doesn't want to have the text messaging to have a groomed combined text with ECATS. And I thought he was going to have it ready last week. So I will check with him again. It had to pass through legal review and all that sort of thing, so that Tim has full confidence it's got the blessing of all the, everything that we need to do. So good question. I know it sounds familiar that we should have been there before now. And I know, Daryl, I believe Tim is supposed to be socializing that with you any day now. I take it he has not done that, correct?
No. And could you tell me, is the plan to include ECATs and text to 911 in one tariff amendment, or are you
Yes,
doing
sir.
it separately?
Correct.
Okay.
We figured two birds, one stone.
Okay. Yep.
So Tina, I'm sorry. I thought that would be done by now, but
That's okay. I appreciate the update. Is there anything that you want to share additional about text or spatial call routing?
no, just validating the pricing. That's another running the gauntlet that Tim had to go through. Basically, we have to test everything with the maximum margin that's allowed by the tariff, the original tariff. So that has to go through the gamut of people within our company here and say, yep, that's the pricing. We approve that, and all the rest of that. So Tim is running that, and that should be ready any day now.
Okay.
And just a note on the timing of that, Wes. I'm getting ready to open the proceeding to set the 911 surcharge rate for 2023. That has to be done by the commission by October 1st. That has to be completed and set. And once it's set, we can't change it again until next year.
Aware.
Okay.
And we were backing into that. The red line that I was pushing everybody on was to have this in your hands no later than, say, the first week in August, so you can get it teed up with the commissioners after it's passed through the perusal of the users here for any comment, etc. So yeah, we're aware the day is fast approaching.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Matt, go ahead.
So Wes, I'm literally working on preliminary budget while listening to this meeting and struggling with budgeting around the unknown timeline for this ECATs and text. Do you have a ballpark idea for implementation of the services with regards to when we start seeing them in the tariff bills?
Well, so if it passes through, what Tim is going to be doing is sending that out with the updated pricing. And I believe it is slightly more than what we have socialized in the past, but very slightly so. And then that'll pass through your perusal. Now, the tariff actually won't be approved till January 1, right? You can order some of these things before then if you wish, and I guess take care of them out of your budget. But I don't believe the reimbursement from the tariff amendment here on these things, if they're approved, that won't happen till March 1st. Am I correct on that, Daryl?
If you're talking about the money from an increase in the surcharge rate, that is correct. It goes into effect on January 1st, but because there's a 60-day delay to that money getting to the 911 authorities, they won't see the increase in the funding until March.
Does that answer your question, Matt, in a way, for budgeting?
Sort of, I guess. Yeah.
I guess one question, Wes, would be, do you know when the effective date? So the tariff could go into effect, within 14 days if nobody objects to it.
Right.
But then when will the additional charges start? Would that be in March of next year, so that coincides with the increase in the surcharge rate, or is Lumen planning on having that start at a different time?
Well, that's a good question. So let's chat about that a little bit more. I think we've kind of maybe gone back and forth. So if the way I thought it maybe would be, so the additional charges for both ECATs and text will be an amendment, but we don't want to charge anybody that doesn't have those services yet, or do we? I mean, ECATs, of course, is a process to get on. That'll probably take about 90 days to onboard the entire state, something in that fashion from what ECATs has told us, figuring that. Do we up the individual tariffs just like we didn't charge people for ESInet till they were on? And how would you like to see those charges applied to the users? And then ultimately, at some point, I guess that is the charge, whether or not they even, for instance, elect to use text messaging, that will be the amendment charge of the increase of the tariff, correct?
So I think the ball is really in CenturyLink's park on how they want to propose this. I think what I would like to see is that the governing bodies don't get charged for it until they have it. And that means that some governing bodies might be receiving reimbursement for it, even though they're not paying for it yet. And I'm okay with that, because that's what we did with the ESInet migration, and it didn't really seem to cause a problem for anybody. But as far, let me ask you this, Wes, will there be non-recurring charges included? Because I haven't seen that yet.
They're not for the ECATs.
But for the text 911?
The text 911, if they are coming over from the beginning and have never had the Entrado style texting, yes, there is a charge. And if they're coming, if they already have texting and they have to change the router over at Entrado and all that and redirect it down the digital pipe for ESInet, we will get those. What Tim is grooming up will have all that outlined. So yes, for the texting, there will be a non-recurring charge in some instances.
Okay.
Depends on where you are today with text.
It's difficult for me to give anything definitive without actually seeing it, but it is potentially possible to reimburse the one-time cost too if they're all done in 1 year, because we can increase the surcharge rate by an amount necessary to cover that as well.
Yeah, okay, and that should be very doable. And I personally think we shouldn't be charging folks until they have the service, but however we can work that out, we have that ability.
I agree with that.
Hey, Wes, somebody asked a question. Elaine asked a question in chat. Has it been discussed or put in there about what is going to happen with those that already are paying for ECATs?
It can switch over to this service, and you can drop the other ECATs that you have if you have ECATs of a fashion.
So, Elaine, you might not have been on previous calls where we discussed this, because this came up actually back in January when we had our NG 911 strategic planning workshop. One possibility, you might need to look at your contract that you have with ECATs right now. There might be a severability clause in there that allows you to discontinue use of that contract and switch over to this without having to pay any penalties or additional cost to them.
So just a quick note, the last numbers we got for the NRCs on text was, I believe, 1806 and change per concurrent session.
1806 being
$1,806 and some change per concurrent session for the migration NRCs.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, you're fine. I guess I'm looking to project costs through the end of the year, which affects where we start next year. So that's kind of the question about when are we going to start seeing these costs, Wes?
I will push Tim and to get that done, and with the head engineer that's working through those costs. Matt, it was my expectation that we would be there right about now. So
sure.
let me do my thing and keep it.
And my 3 911 authorities are okay with putting everything under 1 year, so that everything is under that 1 year surcharge, including the NRCs. We're not chomping at the bit to have this implemented immediately. So that may be to the benefit of the whole state, if that were the case.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Kathy, did you have something you'd like to add?
I did. I just had the question. We had talked about this briefly. With the ECATS reporting, there are probably several agencies that use it for non-emergency phone calls as well. Is that going to be included in this, or is that going to be something that needs to be worked out separately between ECATS and the agencies?
Kathy, are you saying to be recorded the admin? Can you restate that? Maybe I missed the intent of your question.
Yes, the admin lines or the non-emergency lines. I know that there was a conversation, I can't remember exactly when, that the reporting that would go along with this would be for 911 calls only, excuse me. And I know that there are many agencies that pull non-emergency stats, and I wanted to know if that was going to be included with this, or does each agency who needs that have to work out something separate with ECATS for that reporting?
There is a stair stepping with ECATS. We're doing the wireless reporting and the base metrics that come in with the ECATS. We'll send that document back out, what it covers at a base level. And I thought we've talked about, I'm pretty sure it covers the admin lines, Kathy, as well.
Okay, sounds
Don't you
good.
have that now with your Viper system over there?
Yeah, we do, and we're able to pull non-emergency calls.
Yeah.
I just know that it was a conversation before somebody had asked, and it was not certain if it was going to be included when the agreement was made with ECATS.
Yeah, no, it's still that fundamental metric will be pulled. It shouldn't be any change from what you have now. There is some additional reporting that cost extra, which is a level of service within ECATS that is seldom used, and I will. That's not part of this, but I don't know what those other levels are. I've never been involved with any PSAP that did it. So this should be the same service that you enjoy now on your Viper. And you have that with, I guess, what, Converge One? You sold that to you, right?
Yes.
And you have the option, of course, of switching over, and what you should do, and so that it becomes part of the ECATS metrics.
Okay. And then I guess one other question, will a wireless routing analysis be included in that state plan?
Wireless, yeah, that's my understanding. I can't tell you hook, line, and sinker, everything that's involved in that, but it is recording all the wireless calls, and there's a buffet of reports that goes along with that. What Tim Kunkelman's going to do is on the ECATS report, man, there's about 20 plus reports that are included in that. It's pretty comprehensive. What we need to do is get that back out to you folks and resend that out so that you can see the whole trail of reports that will be possible to pull.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Do you all think that maybe do we need to have ECATS come back on? I think that might be helpful. You know, I'd appreciate it as well. There might be some changes of what can be done and all the rest of that. It's constantly an evolving product. We do have a statement of work that they've ironed out with the ECATS folks, but I think it might be helpful for them to kind of do a quick synopsis run through again of what exactly is it going to be offering. Does that sound reasonable?
Kimberly, do you have something to add to that?
I just think from a big picture perspective, once we understand the cost and what's included, that would be helpful to have ECATS explain that, and then the cost of what's not included but can be added on if agencies desire to expand their deployment, that would be beneficial too. So as we're setting our budgets and making those decisions, we have that information in front of us.
So what I'll do is have them teed up on next month's call. And if there's anything supplemental to that, we can certainly send that in broadcast on the email. I think that's a good point.
Okay, Wes, that sounds good. We'll look forward to getting those documents from you or Tim, and then we'll look at adding them to our August meeting for everybody's. Yes. All right, does anybody have anything else for Wes? All right, I think we were on public comment on the agenda. Is there anyone on the call that's a non-voting member that has any questions or things they'd like to share? Okay, does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss before we adjourn? All right, thanks everybody for being here and contributing. We are adjourned at 10:56. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.